ena. To je to. Spoštovani govorniki in panelisti, Spoštovani gostje, dame in gospodje, pozdravljeni na 9. panelu o turizmu na mednarodni konferenci Blejski strateški forum 2023.
Dear ministers, dear excellencies, our panel speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome at the tourism panel at the 2023 Bled Strategic Forum.
Na kratko smo vas pozdravili v slovenščini, dovolite pa, da nadaljujemo v delovnem jeziku Blejskega strateškega foruma, to je angleški jezik.
That was beautiful Martina and beautiful Slovenian, which is of course the official language of Slovenia, but we go on now with the English, which is the working language of the Bled Strategic Forum. The tourism industry is one of the cornerstones of global economies, providing a platform for cultural exchange, economic growth and job creation. However, as the world undergoes rapid technological advancements, shifting societal values and unprecedented global events, the landscape of work within the tourism sector is poised for transformation. Today we find ourselves wondering about the impact of automation, changing consumer preferences, sustainability imperatives, and the overall evolution of the travel experience. At the heart of this discourse lies a fundamental tension between the promise of innovation and the preservation of human connections. When we discuss the future of work in tourism, this is not just a theoretical debate, but a very critical endeavor with real-world implications.
So today, we are ready to rise to the challenge and delve deep into the topic of future professions in tourism and knowledge society. Let us unveil today's program. First, we will listen to the opening speeches by two distinguished speakers representing the co-organizers of today's panel. Mr. Mateusz Frangeș, State Secretary at the Ministry of the Economy, Tourism and Sport of the Republic of Slovenia, and Ms. Maja Pak, Director of Slovenian Tourist Board.
And the opening speeches will be followed by 3 panels with 7 prominent panelists. They will address the topic from 3 distinct perspectives: the institutional, the educational, and the digital transformation. We will ask our panelists and you, the audience, how to effectively adapt the labor market and meet the needs for new workforce skills for future jobs,
how to attract new, young talent to work in tourism, and how to empower and equip existing employees.
And will we be able to use the potential of technology and digitalization in education and work?
Each panel session will span for approximately 20 minutes. In this time, our distinguished panelists will share their thoughts, ideas, and knowledge. And we will continue with a discussion where you, our audience, will be invited to join in with your questions, thoughts, and comments. Now, I think we are more than ready to start with today's program.
I don't know for the speakers, but are you ready? Okay.
Let us invite on stage Mr. Mateusz Frangeș, State Secretary at the Ministry of the Economy, Tourism and Sport of the Republic of Slovenia. Give him a warm applause.
Good morning. Welcome to Slovenia. Welcome to Bled. If you type Slovenia in Google, Bled pictures, images of heaven will appear on your screen. But Slovenia is much more. Its beauties, its experiences, the varieties of excellent services and great hospitality awaits for you on every corner. You can find diversified attractions that will fill up your heart and soul. Destination to travel, destination to experience, destination to discover. More than 30 years ago, when Slovenia got its momentum, when we tried the first steps towards our independence, there was a national tourism campaign called Slovenia Moja dežela. Slovenia, my land. The images shown in that campaign that by its meaning overpassed its aim to attract tourists to Slovenia, but actually filled the nation with aspirations, hopes, vision. In those images, there were people. People working in tourism, trying to create excellent experience for their guests. People in hospitality. People working with people, trying to create a unique experience and satisfaction. That's why work in tourism is among the most beautiful missions one can imagine. Working with people, for people, trying to meet their desires, their hopes to discover new experiences in a new destinations. Slovenia is on the right course with our strategic orientation toward sustainable tourism and being one of the most sustainable tourist destinations in the world already. We are on a good track. Although the catastrophic floods affected this year's tourism and brought serious damage to many of our hospitality services and providers, we achieved a record year with 3.5 million arrivals and 9.2 million of overnights. This is a record season in all Slovenian history. To all of providers, to all hospitality services, hotels, agencies, outdoor activities, wine and culinary makers, congratulations. This is your victory. But this is only possible because our tourism relies on one magnificent transformative force. It's people. People in tourism. Like the images shown in this campaign in the 80s are the force that creates those experiences, are those who create authenticity of our tourist offer. And this is why we are determined and confident that we can achieve our strategic goal to reach higher added value in our tourism, which will then provide a solid ground for better salaries, better confidence, and wider acceptance of the challenges we faced in tourism. I'm looking forward for today's discussion. Hope they'll bring new answers to one of the most, let's say, open challenges we have in our tourism, and that is to attract new people, new ideas, new inventions in tourism. I wish you a nice day and hope that also this year's Bled Strategic Forum will fill us with new hopes and new visions we have for our guests, for best hospitality services the world can find. Welcome in Slovenia.
So, he was ready, Mr. Frangish.
He was very ready.
Yeah. what you also mentioned, Slovenia, moja država, Slovenia, my land. The subtitle was Tourism smo ljudje. Tourism are people.
Exactly.
So, tourism are people, and one of the most important people in Slovenian tourism for years has been Ms. Maja Pak, the director of the Slovenian Tourist Board, and she's our next speaker.
Dear colleagues, esteemed guests and speaker, warm welcome to the Bled Strategic Forum Tourism panel. It's really great to have you all here. Let me start with a question. If Bohinj, the tranquil twin of the two alpine lakes, was once proclaimed too beautiful for murder by Agatha Christie herself, could it be that Bled is too beautiful for such pressing topics we are about to discuss today? Of course not. We have chosen this iconic location to address most critical challenges of our industry. As we have navigated through this year's turbulent peak travel season and suffered the most devastating floods in Slovenia's history, it is clear that alongside the impacts of climate change, labor shortages are today an enormous threat to the global tourism. Let me structure the starting points for today's discussion in three key areas. Firstly, there are millions of jobs, but a shortage of workers all over the world and across all industry. We have all recently experienced that hotels are strongly understaffed, that the restaurants are closed on several days or choose to serve lunch or dinner, or that the best tour guides have long been fully booked. So the questions that keep coming up are, where has everybody gone? What have we done wrong? While the pandemic made the problem worse, staff shortages are not new. They reflect structural issues that have long impacted our sector. But we all agree that the situation has never been this urgent. Economists say changing demographics, including an aging and retiring workforce, contribute to these shortages. Immigration restrictions and unanswered demands for better pay and more flexible working arrangements further influence the issue. Furthermore, short-term vision and the quest for quick profits have intensified the precariousness of the sector. Let's be honest, tourism has become a transitory sector where many workers stay until they find a better job elsewhere. We have come to a point that we talk about the big quit or the great resignation. In effect, today, employees may hold more power than their employers, and they demonstrate it through demands for better social and economic conditions. Their employment decisions are increasingly based also on emotional factors. Do I feel respected? Do I feel appreciated, heard, and seen? So let's not talk only about how to find and attract talent, but also on how to retain and reskill hardworking and talented people. According to the World Economic Forum, at least 1 billion people will need to be reskilled over the next decade to deal with the technological transformation. Moving on to the second point. In the middle of the chaos generated by the pandemic and the devastating impacts of climate change, the first members of Generation Z graduated from university. Recent studies predict that by 2030, Gen Z and millennials will make up nearly 2/3 of the global workforce. Travel and hospitality sector will be greatly impacted not only by the skills, but also values and mindset of Gen Z and millennials. Let us also not overlook another crucial and talented pool which makes up another third of the workforce, the over 50s. So how well prepared are we for this incoming wave of young professionals? What does this mean for employers, and how can we make the most of this generation and for this generation? And let's not lose sight of the fact that we live in an aging society. Younger generations, digital proficiency, social media influence, experience-driven mindset, sustainability focus, cultural diversity appreciation, entrepreneurial spirit, adaptability, flexibility, position them as valuable contributors to the growth and innovation of the industry. We not only need to implement new talent management strategies, we must deliver what is important to them: personal value and purpose. And thirdly, it's safe to claim that tourism has been at the forefront of digital revolution. However, the majority of tourism businesses have still not been able to grasp the productivity and growth potential of digital technologies. The pandemic has definitely accelerated the process. We could say that digitalization has prompted a structural shift in the industry from a sector traditionally hospitality-focused to the one that still provides services, now even more personalized, but often through increasingly high-tech digital platforms, embedded systems, and tools. So where does the industry go from here? No doubt, digital transformation plays a crucial role in making the tourism industry more productive and innovative. Some jobs will definitely disappear, but also new jobs will be created as a result. Even technology requires people to envision, to manage it, and bring it to the market. The entire travel ecosystem depends on people to provide an outstanding experience. According to LinkedIn research, the top 5 sought-after soft skills are creativity, persuasion, collaboration, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. So, we need to work hard, or I should rather say smart, on digitalization, but hand in hand with human connection, quality, fair, inclusive, socially responsible, and sustainable workplaces. So let me sum up the 3 challenges. Firstly, we face huge labor shortages. Addressing this issue requires a complex policy mix, and we must understand that solutions often vary from place to place, from one sector to the other, of the industry to the other. Secondly, we struggle to engage new generations, but at the same time, we undervalue the older ones. We must add another P into the triple bottom line. It's no longer only the planet or profit or people, but also the purpose. And thirdly, the tourism industry is simply too slow in digital transformation. We must speed up digital transformation across the sector, making the best use of digital proficiency of younger generations and or upskilling older generations. The 3 challenges are, of course, highly interconnected. So I would like to wrap it up by delivering one straightforward message. We talk so much about green and digital transformation. We understand that we need to work on all 3 pillars of sustainability. But somehow, along the way, we lose the most important element in the formula: the people, the human being, their needs, their aspirations, their inspirations, the impact they make. So what's the message addressing the root of the problem I mentioned in the beginning? Let me put it out directly. Unless we position the people into the sustainability model, we will without doubt fail. Without it, nothing else matters. Without it, nothing can be really sustained. It should no longer only be about numbers, about profit, about growth. At the end of the day, the business model needs to be sustainable in the long run, of course, also financially, but above all, resilient, responsible, balanced, fair. To all main stakeholders, the environment, the guest, the employer, the employee, the people. Recent weeks have shown how strong and united we, the people, stand in most adverse situations, not only in Slovenia, but also Europe. I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the humanitarian note of this year's strategic forum to help all those people in Slovenia that had misfortune to lose their home. Thank you for your empathy and care. And now back and onward to the panel. I'm looking forward to the discussion resulting in a coherent message for the future of tourism. Thank you and have a very nice day.
Thank you, Ms. Pak.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Pak, for mentioning my generation, the old ones. Anytime.
This was already a lot of food for thought, but we will continue strong. We are ready to start our discussions. But before we begin, let's look on the screen. You will see some numbers that clearly show the impact of tourism industry in our present world. Also note, Slovenia surpasses both the European and global averages in terms of the share of jobs within this sector.
First, we will focus on institutional aspects of our today's topic. How can we effectively adapt to the labor market and meet the needs for the new workforce skills and competences for future green and digital jobs? We're really happy to announce our first two panelists. Please welcome on stage, with a generous applause, of course, Ms. Alessandra Priante, Director for Europe at the World Tourism Organization, UNWTO. And Ms. Dubravka Kalin, Director General of the Director of Tourism, Ministry of the Economy, Tourism and Sport from Slovenia.
So, we are ready to begin, and we will open the discussion with a question for Ms. Priante. According to UNWTO, tourism at an international level is expected to grow in the coming years, which presents both an opportunity and a challenge at the same time when we speak about workforce. The challenge is to support the expected growth. The opportunity is to invest and create quality job opportunities in the sector. States simply need the right human capital base to thrive. So, how will UNWTO members meet the needs for new workforce skills and competencies? And can you maybe point out an example of good practice, or maybe mention a state which tackled the challenge in the right way? Please feel free to take the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Thank you for having me, State Secretary Maya. It's always an obligation for me to come to Bled. The moment that you're not going to invite me any longer, then I'm going to have probably a crisis. So just take this into consideration. And thank you so much, Igor. It's good to see you again.
Still here. Old, but here.
For those of you who were not present last year, this is episode number 2 of our love story. I formally declared my love for Igor from the stage. So, I'm really happy. And it was a surprise for me, so thank you very much.
Season 2.
Let us not
Season
make
2
everybody
is
else
love
You said it was
underwater.
about people. I'm just being people, no, right? So now it's going to be like Romeo and Juliet, like a controversial love. They don't want us to do it, you see?
Our families are on good terms, I guess.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, I want to answer from I take this invitation to Bled very seriously. I take the efforts that Maya and the Ministry of Economy, Tourism and Sport do every year very seriously, because Bled is a very unique moment where truth is told. We saw it yesterday on stage, openly, tackling, the Balkan issues with no real sort of diplomatic barriers, and that was laudable. And I want to take it from Maya's presentation. Bold, straight to the point, what are the problems? Let's go there. The UNWTO, like I hope many of you know, is a UN agency at the service of the member states and the tourism sector to provide what is needed year by year, day by day. And lately, we see trends that started with COVID that are going nowhere, which is a little bit alarming, okay? COVID has shown to everyone, besides, of course, a disruptive negative effect of a health pandemic, they've shown that we were not ready. So readiness is one of the things that we all must work for. Readiness, like having the right strategic priorities, are the keys to overcome difficulties. I had the pleasure of talking to the Slovenian press yesterday because I was asked randomly if I believe that Slovenia is safe. I was asked the same questions 2 weeks ago with the wildfires. The German and Turkish and Greek national and international media outlets reached out to me to say, is this safe? And my comment was, yes, it is. And keep your bookings and keep on going, because tourism needs continuity. All right? Obviously, why am I pointing this out? Because the major effect of all these ups and downs goes on people. Now, if there's no people traveling or canceling bookings or whatever, there's entrepreneurs, on the other hand, who are in difficulty. And therefore, that will have an effect on the workforce. So the beauty of tourism is that it's a virtuous circle, but it can also be very dangerous because it can become vicious. It's like a domino effect. One card goes down, it all goes down. And then it takes a lot to bring it up. So I think throughout the years, Slovenia was able to demonstrate, one, sustainability, you have to choose it for real. It's not just a word. And when you do that, you're ready to confront emergencies. Doesn't mean that the emergencies might not happen. Obviously, Slovenia cannot control the weather. And we're in the middle of a huge climate change wave. But Slovenia is ready to react, okay? And this is very important because this is exactly what happened with COVID. With all the difficulties, the countries that already had sustainable practices in place were the ones who were able to bounce back and stand up with a little bit of difficulty. Workforces need future. If you ask me, it's not really very much about the pay or the, let's say, economic contribution. It's about prospects. 65% of the workforce that left the tourism sector throughout COVID, they left also for personal reasons, because they didn't find the motivation in staying into a sector that apparently is so volatile. So my challenge here would be, rather than pointing out on who did better than the others, my challenge here would be who is more effective in communicating how resilient the tourism industry is. It's like you're working in a sector that is able to bounce back, and it only bounces back with your personal contribution, whether you're a waiter, a cook, a person that cleans, or a tour operator, or a hotel owner. This sort of capacity of adapting, reacting creatively, and generating a prospect and a future is the key to making sure that people stay and consider tourism as an opportunity. But I'd leave the second part to the continuation.
Resilience was also an important topic when the strategy of Slovenian tourism was drafted in the years after COVID. So the Slovenian tourism strategy spans from 2022 to 2028. One of its 5 strategic goals is to increase satisfaction of tourism employees, of guests, and locals. And the strategy outlines 7 policies. One of those, policy number 3, is focused on human resources. So, Ms. Kalin, we're now turning to you. What are the key measures inside the policy number 3 that need to be introduced, or maybe have already been introduced? And what makes them so special? What are those key things that need to be addressed first, also to increase resilience?
Thank you very much for your question. I must begin with one statement that we really understand at the ministry how important are people in tourism. I hope that you all sense that also from the presentation of our State Secretary. When I started to work as a tourist guide, as a student, I counted once, when I did the tour to Italy, to Perugia, that 265 people had to do the right thing at the right moment, at the right place, and on the right way, that the tour at the end was as it should be. So people are important, and I mean that this is the main reason that also in the new strategy this issue was tackled, and the policy of human resources is one of the 7 main policies. Of course, ensuring the inflow of staff is now one of the main issues that we have to address. And we started with actions actively already because we cannot wait. We have a good schooling system. We have good schools. We have 70 vocation and 17 vocation and technical schools. We have 19 colleges. We have faculties for tourism. They are providing young people, but only 10% to 15% of those young people actually end in the tourism industry. Either they go to the foreigner countries, either they don't stay in the tourism industry. So that's for me very big alarm. And of course, one of the solutions in the strategy is recruitment and integration of foreigner labor force. This is partly an answer of our problem, but when I discuss this with hoteliers, with restaurants, and so on, I can see it's not a very good solution. It's a quick fix, but not enough. So that's why we are addressing in this strategy also really how to motivate young people to go to tourism industry. Of course, we have to attract them. And we can see that industry already also took some steps advance. For example, we have companies in Slovenia that are now in agreement with local communities already building apartments for young family. They are building new schools, kindergartens, because they know that they have to provide good environment to live there and to attract young people to stay in the tourism industry. So, and this building an apartment and building a school, it has on the first side nothing to do with tourism, but it needs to be done to be attractive. Of course, we have to improve also competencies for high-value green tourism industry. We are very strict, with tense connections with chambers, with other ministries, how to do that. And there are also some steps that were already made. And of course, one important thing is also how to create a flexible and favorable regulatory and supportive environment. So I think that those three sub-policies are crucial to at least partly address the problem we have now. But I think we need to find a way how to motivate young people to work in tourism. Because, to be honest, when we listened to Maya, she was quite poetic. But I must say, working in tourism is being a gladiator. It's a hard work. And you really need to love tourism if you want to not only to survive, but to feel good in that industry. And
yes, Mrs. Scalini, you mentioned the young ones. Don't forget the old gladiators, please. But of course, you were speaking about the long-term approach to fix the problem. But Ms. Bach said we had short-term problems after COVID, so we were losing people from tourism because of social security issues, working time, workload, precarious work. Which, let's say, short-term solutions did you provide in order to address this problem? Short-term measures to bring the young people back, to bring the old people back into tourism?
We started with concrete ideas and measures because we know in tourism we have no time just to dream, that we have to do something. There were some actions made by the STB, Slovenian Tourist Board, like program Career in the Tourism, and we are doing quite a lot on that field to activate young people. Of course, there are also some other actions. For example, the Tourism Association is very strong with the project. I hope I will translate that correctly. Tourism helps your own head. They're working with young people, so there are many actions that we try to activate young people and keep them in the loop on the tourism field.
What about the old ones?
I'm glad you asked that, because I mean, before I started to work at the Ministry of Tourism, I studied quite a lot about lifelong learning, where it's very important also how to transfer a tacit knowledge. In tourism, I can see that many people, okay, they understand numbers, 15.9 million overnight stays and so on. We understand numbers, very good. But you have to understand also that in tourism there is a lot of tacit knowledge, and older generation has it. But I think we still haven't found a way how to transfer that knowledge. And this is important, how to connect both generations.
I must now give a remark to go on with our love story, Ms. Briante. Everything what is good starts in Italy. The career of Ms. Scalini started in Perugia. You are from Italy. But my last question in this first part goes to you, Ms. Briante. So there are a lot of challenges and opportunities, even for countries like Slovenia, which are, let's say, small superpowers in tourism. Well, how do you see it from your perspective at UNWTO? How a country like Slovenia should address this short and long-term problems?
First of all, let's start with the statement that tourism has bounced back. Okay, so numbers are back to 2019. A time when all of us, no, I'm not saying specific in Slovenia, in general, they're bouncing back. In some destinations, they even surpassed 2019. Let's all remember that 2019 was the time when we were shouting about over-tourism, too much tourism. So a part of my answer, also picking up on Mrs. Scalini's words and your remarks about older people, social sustainability is a huge aspect. What does it mean? You need to continue involving local communities in your strategies. So, for example, Slovenia, how can Slovenia do it better or continue doing it is by including the local communities as part of the discourse. To always continue making sure, and I know you already do it, that these people, the destinations, are sitting at the table while you're deciding the policies and the investments and the approaches. The third point would be on destination management, and it links to the first one. It is very important to make sure that tourism is always considered positively also as a career, that, for example, younger generations see that tourism is doing good for their own countries. So if you live in an environment where, after a while, people start complaining about the amount of tourists coming, and there is like a depopulation effect whereby all houses get turned into Italy, check it out, get turned into Airbnbs. So there's no actual local people living anymore because all the houses are rented out. And so when all these foreign tourists from overseas come and they are expecting some kind of romantic situation, they're going to find themselves with basically nothing. So this is very...
Italy without Italians, it's no romance, I would say. Not romantic.
No, but for example, if honestly there are neighbor cities, I'm not going to mention them, but you might easily think about, like closer airport, for example, to Slovenia, that basically has no more Venetian residents. So because they've all moved out to mainland, because one is very stressful, two is definitely more productive to rent their house. So what I want to say is, a country like Slovenia has done it so well until now, and it has to continue doing it well. We need examples like Slovenia. It doesn't matter big or small. It just matters how you do things. And the human side of the sector should be very well crafted in any strategy. We at the UNWTO have a series of initiatives in place. We're on education, on online education, agreements. We're launching the first bachelor with Switzerland, basically with Luzern, on sustainable tourism. So we are convinced that we need to educate the younger generation to understand the power of tourism. But if I'm a young person and I'm looking for a career, I'm looking also at what the job opportunities are, what the environment looks like, what the situation is around me, how can I can actually contribute. So it is very important that all of this is approached in a very holistic way. Allow me to finish, to build up on what Dubravka said regarding her beginnings in Perugia. Perugia is also home to the biggest probably foreign students university. So already it's a very contaminated, beautiful medieval city in the center of Italy.
And they had a good football club many years ago. Now they're pretty
Yeah,
big,
but the guy died many things. Yeah, I know. In Italy, in the beginning of the year 2K, in Puglia, how many of you know the region Puglia here? Good. They've done a good job, you see? Puglia, the heel of the boot, and not a very, beautiful, but not very hospitable in a sense. Can be very hot, very windy, it's flat, but beautiful in terms of tradition. They have their own language. They're surrounded by the sea. The food is outstanding. At some point, one very enlightened governor decided to assign all the tourism policy to people below 28. That transformed Puglia forever. This is when the Justin Timberlake wedding came, and that from there Madonna coming all the times, and everyone, and actresses and actors from Hollywood buying houses there. Now, that is not the main indicator of tourism. It just tells you that whenever you were arriving in Puglia in those years, there was always a young group of people welcoming you, explaining to you about the region, sharing enthusiasm. And the one thing about tourism, you cannot lie. If you're not happy to receive someone, people actually feel it. So how the challenge would be, how do we keep this passion going? How do we nurture this passion, and how do we make it absolutely contagious instead of COVID?
Okay.
Ms. Priante, you mentioned destination management organizations. Those used to be primarily marketing-focused entities. Now they are becoming strategic leaders in the development. Did we understand correctly that you claim there's a lot of opportunities already available for the leaders of destination management organizations to improve?
Absolutely. I think the shift to strategy is needed. It's not easy to manage tourism at administration level. She does a very difficult job. And she started by telling us that she's very passionate about it, because when you're a tour guide, you're definitely passionate about history and the country and everything. And once again, we go back to passion. But administrations suffer. At a government level, at a municipal level, tourism is always sort of the one that needs to fight more. You mentioned gladiators. I would say even more than that. You always have to jump and shout and say, hey, don't cut my budget. Oh, please keep me there. Oh, no, me. And, so it's always very, very difficult. So to have tourism boards, to have the power to actually address the strategy is crucial, because they talk to the outside world and they're able to talk to the industry. So I would like to mention that in this situation, private and public have to go very well hand in hand. And this is another example where Slovenia excels, because there's not one time in which I sat in this panel and further, and I noticed that there was a friction between the public entities and the private sector represented. Of course, there's always demands. Of course, they're always going to ask you for more money. But there's the level of understanding and cooperation towards common objectives is the only key to move forward. And going back to destination management, if you allow me, Bled is beautiful. I personally see one risk out of Bled: the loss of soul. I want to see Slovenia. I want to feel Slovenia. And you always make sure that... Yeah, right? Well, the only ones who had it in the name from the beginning. So it wasn't really us. It was Slovenia in the first place. No, but really and truly, the soul of a destination is what makes the destination really an objective for tourists. Because tourism is never about going, it's about returning. And you need to make sure people return. Because in Italy, I can guarantee you, and I'm sorry for those who are going to listen to me, maybe they're not going to agree, but many had beautiful experiences, but those that didn't, whether it's a cappuccino for 50 euro, a sudden cancellation of a reservation, or more disruptive experience, they're not going to come back. And they're going to make sure all their friends do not come back. So in this sense, really, UNWTO stresses on the fact that tourism is the most human economic sector of it all. And the human factor, whether it's human resources, whether it's human decision makers with a lot of passion, or, the industry that doesn't just look at the money now immediately, but just has a way of thinking about the next 5 to 10 years, that is the key for a very successful story.
Thank you. So, private and public, the last question goes to Ms. Kalin. How well are Slovenian companies, businesses, already supporting and growing their employee skills?
I think, as Ms. Pak already mentioned before, our issues with human resources started way before pandemia. Pandemia, okay, increased all the problems, but we did some big mistakes in the past, and now we have to find solutions. Maybe in Slovenia, human resources department, which are more focused on developing labor force in the companies, are more developed in bigger companies. But also, I noticed when I work on the field with industry that also in small companies they see that there is no other way that than work with people to provide their development, not just on the field of their skills and competences, but also to find the way that they feel good, secured, and that they are heard and that they feel good. So step by step, we are understanding now that this is a very important part, but of course, in the sector of tourism, hospitality and tourism, also the last annex of the sectoral collective agreement was signed. Now we are really trying to provide better wages in the industry. This is also very important. Money is not everything, but it is important, especially for younger generation. And we have to take into account that also we will have to take more care about balancing life and work. For younger generation, they think totally different than us. When we had to work 12, 14 hours, no problem. We understand that tourism cannot be done from 7 to 3. Okay? It's very intensive industry, and that's why we will have to balance the way. And I think that this is also our misunderstanding, that why we have such a problems with human resources. At this moment, hospitality and tourism industry employs about 6% of active workforce. It's quite the same that we had in 2019. Where is the problem? The problem is people are not ready anymore to work 12, 14 hours a day. So if you want to run a hotel, a restaurant, or whatever, you have to have a bigger team. That's why it's very hard to keep now restaurants and hotels open. So that's why we will really need to take care about this issue.
Ms. Priante, did I understood correctly that you want to reply?
No, I don't want to reply. I want to add on. 53% of the workforce in tourism is women. 53. So we're leading. But only 22% of this 53 is in higher managerial positions.
We are leading.
No, you're just capitalizing on old history. Okay. That's it. And we're being too nice as usual. Women are nice, yeah? To passion and thing, yeah. So, but it's okay. It's fine. We like to keep you thinking that, you know?
Thank you.
Now, what I see here is opportunity. In the beginning, in your beautiful introduction, you spoke about opportunity and challenges, okay? So this is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity, because once you leverage women in, you are in an absolute guarantee of success. The second remark I want to make, training. Last year also we spoke about training. Training is very important, not just in university courses, but training is the key. To keep people always updated. As a younger person, when I was in my previous career, I just adored when the company told me, hey, you have a Microsoft Office course that it's going to last 3 weeks. Microsoft Office course, I mean, it's not that much. But they would tell me, hey, you do this, you get a certificate, you meet your colleagues. And I was like, oh, wow, the company's actually taking care of me. So whomever works in tourism, besides tapping onto your passion, which you should actually go and communicate to tourism schools. You should actually go and speak and be the first advocate to say, look, I work as a top person in the administration, managing a lot of headaches and stuff, but I started as a young tourist guide. Any tourist guide will be delighted to hear your success story. So we really have to factor all this in and be a little bit courageous. Otherwise, you might have made your money back from COVID this year, but you're not going to make any money in 3 years from now. So this is, for me, the challenge that I would like to leave to you. And this is where the UNWTO, together with the governments, is next to you to understand what can be done. But the first awareness comes from the private sector, from you, to support your decision makers to make the right choices. Thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to speak a little bit more.
Of course.
I know that Igor is happy if I do that. So
No, it's perfect. I have to stretch my old bones now because we're now getting to the questions and answers sections from the audience, if we have.
We have time for one question or maybe one comment. So
Okay, who will be the chosen one?
I hope it's going to be a question and not a comment. And I hope it's for her, not for me. But it's okay.
Slovenians are known philosophers.
I parked my card badly. You have to go and move it.
But if you don't have any questions or comments right now, we can leave that part for later and move on. Anybody? Last chance? 5, 4. We have one person.
Okay, I'll stretch. I'll come to you.
We have our,
wow.
our girls there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take the opportunity and have 2 questions, even though we have time for one. Okay, so first question is for Ms. Dubravka. Since this is a strategic forum, we were talking about private and public. My question is, since the new government in Slovenia, do we have a strategy for state-owned hotels? We know that, 75% of hotels in Slovenia or hotel beds in Slovenia are state-owned. We know that there has been basically no investment in hotel industry in the past decade. And I'm wondering, are we going to keep the state-owned hotels? Are we going to start investing in it? Are we going to sell them? Is there a strategy at all? That's question number 1. And the question number 2, since we have people here from hospitality schools and the government at the same time, I was lucky enough to study in Switzerland in one of the best hotel schools in the world, hospitality schools. And most of the students there were enrolled in the international program. So it was in English language, not in French language. And the best students, or a lot of students, fell in love during the studies, started their family, and then eventually they stayed in Switzerland. They started the employment in the hospitality industry. And in Slovenia, we have empty hospitality schools on one hand, and we have, I think, no international hospitality programs for foreign students who can come here, start a family, and potentially stay in Slovenia. So that's my 2 questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the questions. Let me just briefly intervene.
What is the second question? Because he made a remark about people forming a family in Switzerland and not in Slovenia. So what's the question?
No, he's a man. No question from him.
So,
no, the question
our next discussion will focus on educational aspect. So we will keep the second questions for later, okay? But we will ask Ms. Dubravka to answer the first one, if you can.
As far as I can, I will try to answer. The first step was, of course, the government tried to consolidate our hotels. You know that they are now all in the so-called as the Hague group. But of course, there are further discussions because we know the situation in the hotels, and yes, we are preparing, but it will be a wider discussion. It's not something that on our directorate could be decided and said now this is going to be in the next 6 months. But we know the problem.
That was a political answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So let's give... Yes, but unfortunately we have to move on. There will be time for discussions
She's a woman.
Even
How
later.
dare you?
I know. We will give her the priority
the
later. Yes. Okay. So let's give another warm hand for Ms. Kalin, Ms. Priante. Thank you very much. A lot of love on this stage.
And see you next year, Miss Briante. I mean, you're a you're a politician now, so we don't know for you, but no problem. We'll see. So we're now ready to move to our next discussion. As Martina said, we'll discuss education. Companies in the industry are looking for employees with quality knowledge and a high level of soft skills. Working conditions in tourism may not always seem attractive. Therefore, young people often choose another career path, or older people too. What are the solutions, and what do employees, the employers, have to say about education for professions in tourism sector today?
But before we bring our next panelists on stage, we will first watch a video message from Ms. Natalia Bayona, the Executive Director of UNWTO, discussing the educational opportunities offered by the organization.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today online talking about education and what the UNWTO is doing on the matter. Thanks again to the Bled Strategic Forum to let us share all our thoughts. As you know, we have 4 pillars when it comes to tourism education. The Tourism Online Academy, our online platform with more than 20 top universities like the Swiss Education Group, PolyU from Hong Kong, Les Roches, public universities in Latin America, all the universities focused in hospitality and tourism here in Spain. And with basically what we are doing with them is uploading massive online open courses to promote the most important methodologies in terms of tourism and to scale up the way people are educated. Today, more than 20,000 students from more than 150 nationalities are there studying tourism and having a strong certification from a top university and the UNWTO. Second of all, everything related to high schools and our bachelor's program. So this year, we decided to start the journey of education since high school. So we are working to create the UNWTO toolkit to include tourism as a subject in high schools. So the main idea of this project is to help our ministries of tourism to include tourism and to help to empower youth and all the future leaders in tourism about the importance of tourism as an economic sector, and to include all the tourism path since the last 2 years of secondary school. This year we have launched as well with Lucerne the first bachelor's in science in international sustainable tourism, and the aim of the project is to help the different students to study in Madrid, our house, one of the biggest and strongest capitals when it comes to tourism, to study in Switzerland, and the third year to study in any country where they want. So this visionary program as well aims to promote again accessible but quality tourism education. Third of all, our executive courses that we are trying to create to promote tourism in different countries all around the world. We are creating more than 30 executive courses with bilateral cooperation with the ministries of tourism, so we are able here to again send and promote the UN methodologies, the UN footprint in every single thing that we do in terms of education. For us, education is a key pillar because, of course, in a sector where 50% of youth are working in tourism but only have secondary skills, and 2/3 of Europeans working in tourism only have secondary skills, is mandatory to empower tourism, to empower tourism education, and of course to make the young generations involved into this economic sector in a very professional way. I want to wish you all the best and to enjoy this journey, and I invite all of you to follow our social media accounts, UNWTO Academy, in order to promote and to strengthen the voice of tourism education. Thank you so much and enjoy the journey.
So that was the video message, and now we welcome on stage, of course, again with a warm applause, Ms. Ulrika Björklund, the Executive Director of Industry Affairs and Career Services at Swiss Education Group. Then Dr. Danica Purk, Founder and Director of the IEDC Bled School of Management, a very important institution in Slovenia. And coming from down under, Mr. Rodney Dunn, Chef and Co-Founder of the Agrarian Kitchen from Australia. I'm old, I will stand.
So, let us open the second debate. We are a little bit behind our schedule, but I'm sure we can make up for that time. Ms. Björklund, the Swiss education system is known worldwide for top-notch education, especially in vocational training for young people. Switzerland also has an amazing tradition, especially in hospitality, tourism, culinary education. Swiss Education Group manages 4 of the best hospitality schools worldwide. Can you briefly tell us a little bit more about Swiss Education Group? What is the mission, and what strategies are you finding the most useful when pursuing this mission?
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be with you here today, and thank you for the invitation. Well, yes, as you mentioned, Swiss Education Group, we're the largest educator in Switzerland. And 4 of our schools are among the 8th in the world of best hospitality management school as per the QS global ranking of hospitality management schools. We have HIM, SHMS, Cesar Ritz colleges, and Culinary Arts Academy as well. And we offer bachelor and master degrees. So you have the academic side of the education, but also the vocational experience. So the students that come to us, we have over 6,000 students coming to Swiss Education Group every year from 110 nationalities. So it's a very diverse, very international student body. And the vocational experience, obviously the students get focused learning. So if somebody wants to be into events management, the courses that we deliver are focused on events. So the students don't necessarily have to study subject or courses that are not relevant or interesting for them. Hands-on experience through practical classes, practical courses, but also internships that we offer as part of the curriculum, and the transferable skills. We've all been talking about people, with people, for people, and passion, and the soft skills, empathy, being able to work as a team, conflict management. And our mission, our purpose, is to create tomorrow's industry leaders, for sure. And we do that with the industry support. We bring the real world into the classroom. We bring the industry partners' experience and know-how into the classroom. And I think one of our strengths is that we adapt the curriculum as to the trends, as to the needs of the industry. We're not, so to say, stuck in a rut. We adapt, we adjust, and we really, really talk to the industry, understanding their needs and getting the students and graduates ready for the real world.
Thank you for this introduction. Dr. Purk, your school is focused especially on practicing managers. What do you see as the leadership education of the future?
Thank you very much for inviting me. I would like to tell you that we were already 20 years ago trying to make a postgraduate studies, MBA study in tourism as a specialization. And we got one single candidate, from Slovenia. And then we took this lady to the school. I still remember she was from Terme Čatež. We took her in the MBA. She finished MBA, executive MBA, and then we arranged some professors from Hong Kong, because they are, as you know, famous on that tourism education too, so that she got some special courses just out of the, next to this what she did with us. We also had 100,000 students from 100 countries in our school, and of course we would like to do something special for tourism too. But I don't see in fact, any difference in education. I think that in tourism you need the same, what I heard today too already. You need to make people, to help people to become more innovative, more creative, they need much more to become digitalized, to understand more how to use artificial intelligence in their work and so on. So when we take people to our school, we are telling them, you will really get a special experience. And I know that you do the same in tourism. You go for a special experience. You will learn a lot, But I can tell you at the end of the study, especially if you are a longer time in the school, there are people mostly telling me, what I liked here, what I learned today, I could use tomorrow. They say I was not half an hour annoyed, and they say I became another person. I came home as another person because we have ethics, we have art and leadership. Our school is an art gallery. Since you are in Bled, you should come to see it. It's just behind Festivalna Dvorana, that's the school. So we try to make people more creative, more also to develop more critical thinking and so on. So experience is something which I believe is much more, nobody says, they say, I learned a lot. Somebody from Macedonia, I remember, gave an interview when he came home. There were 3 Macedonians, they came home, and they gave an interview about the school, about their education. And then one of them said, when I came home from the study, after a year in modules, we have it, or 2 years in shorter modules, he said, when I came home, in my company saw that I learned a lot, but my family saw that I became a better human being. And what can you wish as a director of the school better than this? I became a better human being. We are also paying a lot of attention to sustainability because we think that, the lady before from Italy said that she is afraid that Bled would lose the soul. I think they are very much protecting this soul, the authorities here around, So I think it will stay as it is. But it's true that whenever I come anywhere abroad, I come with some slides. I shall show the slides. And my first slide is always Bled. And I put that slide on, and then I see people are so much looking to this beautiful picture that I just leave for half an hour that I talk one slide on. And that's Bled. And for the rest, it's inspiration, So I think, when I was invited to talk about marketing in Central and Eastern Europe in tourism to École Hôtelière de Lausanne, I was also trying to invite them. Not trying. I invited them to Slovenia. I said, help us to make better tourism schools there. And the gentleman came and he said to me at the end, I would come to you to do with you together something, but not with other schools because they are too much trying to educate doctors of science in tourism and not people who are, able to empty the ashtray, who are kind, who are doing this and that, So I think that these practice-oriented, experience-oriented studies are extremely important, and I would... if I were in the government, I would also, because people in tourism, they think that all this education is too expensive. They still look too much through the cost side. I think that you should send firstly people abroad to study, then to send them to try to make this tourist school more and more international. You can become international if you have education in English or, you can become if you are having money to invite the best professors from all over the world, and etc. So there is a lot to be done, but everything is possible. There is nothing that is not
Dr.
possible.
Purk, before Martina challenges Mr.
I finished now.
No, but I have a question for you because you mentioned ashtrays. This job is dying out. Because people are not smoking so much anymore, and you're getting the new generations, Gen Z workers, into the system, and they have a very specific approach to life. Most of them are not satisfied with their organization's progress in creating a diverse and inclusive work environment. But do you think that the curricula of your school should change in order to let's say adapt the managers for this new generation, because it is changing? They're different employees.
It is, but you were talking about being old, you know. So I can confirm that also. And I shall tell you, I had to deal with at least 6, 7 different generations already, you know. And perhaps if I'm lucky, I shall have it still some time to deal with Generation Alpha, you know, with a new one. So managers and leaders should know to handle and manage and lead all these different people. This is one thing. Second is that Africa and Asia and Latin America, they have different type of generations than we have here. You know, this is also very different. So if you are international, you have to know more and to be really very educated and to travel around by yourself. You know, I remember I had waiters in Croatia who were just from. Once I was invited to somebody home, to his father who was repairing me the roof on the house, and then I saw where is this waiter living. You know, he was never ever even not in the bigger town in Croatia. So how can you, and you know, and that's only Croatia, there are all kinds of countries, you know, everyone in fact has people who were never ever seeing one good hotel, and they become waiters and they become all kinds of tourist workers. So I think that, and the third thing I would like to share with you is that we had in our school, in doctoral program, a gentleman, his name is Marko Majer. He made an MBA in our school, he made a PhD, and his thesis for PhD was generations, how to handle different generations. And you know what was his conclusion? That this is a construct, that we are exaggerating with this different generation just because of the reason that I mentioned. So I would like to say still concerning the generations that perhaps, to be on the positive side, perhaps we could make a little board in every organization, you know, to have a kind of advisory board if you really feel that that is the issue becoming a challenge. To have a board like of 4 or 5 people who are under 35 and they are advising you how you should change some practices. That would be like a positive approach. But otherwise, I really have a lot of, I deal a lot with international public and with young people and with older people, and I don't see too big difference, you know. They are kind or not kind, they are ambitious or not ambitious, but I would like that in tourism work really the best people, because this is the best for the country, to attract the talents from everywhere and to become a great country, I think, if you have good people and invest in them.
Thank you. I'm bringing the word now back to Ms. Björklund. We chatted before about your 6,000 children that you accept every year. In your opinion, how do young people today perceive the tourism industry? We hear so much. We need to attract young people. We need to talk to young people. How can we actually motivate them to choose education and professions in tourism?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And if I may just touch on what you mentioned about the Gen Z and adding into the curricula, I think as educators, it's our responsibility to make sure we get the students ready for the real world. We have to know what the generation is asking for. And yeah, we've talked this morning so far about, you know, the work-life balance, finding a purpose, sustainability, diversity, and inclusion. And us as educators, like I said, it's our responsibility to make sure we adjust and adapt. But yes, like you said, you know, I'm old, but I think silver economy sounds more sexy, maybe.
Okay.
So if we'll say silver economy. So yes, I have 6,000 children every year, and it's amazing to see their journey, you know, when they come 17 years old, and after 3 years, they've grown into amazing professional young men and women. And yes, I think there's twofold when it comes to tourism and hotel careers. Absolutely, I think we need to work better on, you know, adapting and finding this work-life balance, social, economical purposes as well, making sure that the people can survive, you know, that they get paid enough to have a decent job and be able to live. But also, I think we need to be better at storytelling. And going back to Ms. Priante, what she was saying is that we need to be better at sharing the successes, you know, and this industry is amazing, you know. You get the transferable skills. You can jump from one industry to another industry. You can start as in banqueting and end up as director of sales and marketing or general manager even. It doesn't mean that you work in a restaurant, you're going to be there for the rest of your life. Absolutely not. The skills that you acquire are transferable within our industry, but also outside the industry. Believe it or not, we have a lot of financial institutions contacting us. They want to hire our students, banks, finance institutions, because our students have the human skills. Right? Hard skills are easier to teach, but it's the soft skills that tourism and hotel students have, they're born with. They have that in them, and that's always very hard to find. So non-hotel and tourism industry are looking for hotel and tourism students. So we need to be better at storytelling, success stories. You know, this is where I started, this is where I've been. Going to our schools, sharing the success stories, and giving the young generation an understanding of what is possible. Yes, in your beautiful country of Slovenia, but also if you're looking for an international, you're talking about Switzerland, international career, you can move, you know, to any country, you know, depending on work permits, of course. But it's an exciting, fantastic industry to be in, and we need to be better at storytelling, for sure.
And we teach them. Excuse me, just a short interruption. We are teaching in our school the storytelling, because the leader should be strong in that, and for motivation, and especially motivation.
Great. Now I would like to challenge now Mr. Dan. As you may see in Slovenia, men must wait a little to get the possibility to talk. Well, it's
the same in Australia.
Really? Okay. So I won't emigrate to Australia. But I mean, speaking of success story, you are a success story. You're a star chef, and you have your own school, the Agrarian Kitchen Cooking School, together with your wife, Sémérine Demanet. Well, what kind of school is it, and who do you teach?
Well, good question. The Agrarian Kitchen is not a formal education school. It's a school that revolves around tourism and teaching, I guess, people skills to get back in the kitchen, linking the kitchen with the garden, and you know, we have a very heavy bent on sustainability. Mm-hmm. All of our resources that we take from our kitchen goes back into our garden. But you know, in terms of the clientele, it's people of all ages from all parts of Australia and other parts of the world, I'm proud to say. They come for an experience that is unique to our part of our place. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I always, you know, it's been very interesting hearing all of the speakers and the panels, because, you know, you realise that the problems are not uniquely European or Australian. We all share the same thing in tourism all over the world, is full of the most wonderful people. People, I always say, they're giving, they're givers. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we sort of seek to do when people come to us. We give them that experience, we give them an authentic experience where we, you know, journey to the garden, we harvest vegetables and we cook together.
But do you take also, let's say, younger generation which already has, let's say, the education for a cook? So is it good for you, or do you think that of course modern courses, modern curricula actually lose this human touch because they're too structured, let's say, too modified when it comes to skills.
Look, it's interesting because I think that I'm also an employer of around 25 people to do what we do with the restaurant and garden and the cooking school, and we have the same skills shortage in Australia, and experience is very difficult to find people with experience, and I think too in Australia we don't have invested enough in base skills. And those base skills are important. Obviously, every business has their own different level at which they wish to operate on, and those skills are then taught, through the job. And so it's very hard for schools to give people everything they need to step into any situation. But I think having those base skills is really important, because then you've got something to build on. And I know in hospitality, in Australia, it hasn't been so much about the training. A lot of people come into hospitality and tourism, for that matter, because they enjoy the work. It's interesting to hear it's the same situation where people have done another job, for instance, and they've just found they just love hospitality. They love their givers. They love giving to people. And so a lot of their skills has been learnt, on the job. So I think, the blend is important.
Okay, like in whiskey. Yeah.
Ms. Björklund, based on the UNWTO data, 80% of top tourism academic programs are focused on hotel management. You already mentioned that in your case, people can decide just, for example, to educate themselves on events or certain subsectors. Do you think that generally subsectors should be better represented in the education system? And if yes, which one especially?
Yes, absolutely. I think again, going back to the storytelling, talking about the opportunities. And I know the UNWTO, like we just said, have a lot of focus on tourism and a lot of focus on the different opportunities and courses. So yes, I think I wouldn't say one or specific industry. I think we need to highlight all industries. But again, like I said before, mentioned that they're interconnected, because you start maybe, again, as a guide or a tourist guide, doesn't mean, you can stay there if you want to, but there's so much more, so many more opportunities. So I think we need to focus on everything, all tourism and hotel aspirations. There's definitely a cross section between the industry there. And going back to Gen Z, they want a purpose. They are quicker at wanting change. When I was young and started my hotel career, you stayed in one place and you worked hard and you worked the 12 hours and you worked the 15 hours. The generation is different. And we can see that from our students when they do an internship, after 1 or 2 months, okay, now what? I've been in the restaurant for 2 months. What's next? They want constant change. They want to learn. They want to move. They want to be flexible. So definitely we need to be better at promoting all the different sectors in both hotel and tourism.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn, we talked before about your connection to nature, to your garden, and how that influences your work and your excellence. Do you think that somebody, for example, being in school system today, being educated only in school, for example, in school kitchen, can actually reach this high level of excellence, like without this first hands-on experience with the garden, with nature? What is your opinion on this?
So, look, I think that for us, the garden takes it to a whole new level. Obviously, base skills are important, but it's very interesting to see the top chefs in the world, and I include your own Anna Roche, and I've had the pleasure of spending the last few days with her and some time in Tasmania with her. It's taking that and adding passion. We heard about passion, and it's self-drive. So the people who really excel have this amazing self-drive to always want to do better, to always go, well, this is good, but how can I be better? And, they're the people within your own, like within my own institution, that you want to really nurture and help with extra training and things like that. It's a two-way street. As employer and employee, you want to see people with drive, and they're the outstanding ones who give you pleasure as well. But also in that, I think it comes top down too. Like with all our employees, I would never want them to feel like I'm apart from them. Like we are part of them. We call them our agrarian family for a reason, and it's about sustainability not only in our business, but we talked about human resource sustainability. And with I was the silly generation who worked, like most people at that time, where you just worked and worked and worked because that's what you thought you could do. And it's easy to look at the younger generation and say, oh, they're lazy. Maybe they're smart. Maybe we're the ones that were a little bit crazy. So, but it's about facilitating them, and like we only open the restaurant and 3 days a week. We have a day prep, so everyone gets to have 3 days off. They get to have a life, and that's the thing. In hospitality, we always feel like we have to be married to it, and that's fine. But then, I meet so many people. Oh, I used to be a chef, and that's such a sad story because all of that training and all of that wisdom they've gone and left in the industry, who will never benefit from it. So,
can I add something, please, to this? I really like that you mentioned the word passion, because we didn't do it so far. And that's so important, and especially in tourism. But the most important, and to get the passion, is the meaning of work. What is the meaning of my work? This comes now in leadership education more and more important. You are getting motivated, you are forgetting, that you work 10 hours or more if you see that this work which you do has a meaning. And so every employer and every leader should take care that his employees or her employees are getting this meaning on different ways in the job where they are.
Thank you. With this final message by Ms. Purk, we will finish this discussion. And instead of having a debate right now, we will ask a very special guest to share an example of good practice with us. We have with us Mr. Dominikas Černjak from a beautiful Jasna Chalet Resort in Kranjska Gora. And they have a very unique program, especially tailored to young people starting their career in tourism industry. So, Mr. Černjak, if you please stand up, our assistant will bring you the microphone. Can you give us a short overview of the awarded project Mladi Talenti Jasne, or translated Young Talents of Jasna?
Hvala lepa za besedo, spoštovane kolegice in kolegi, spoštovani gostje, dear colleagues and dear distinguished guests. It's a pleasure to be here. Like always and every year, you are enlightening us with some good ideas. And Mrs. Ulrike, you were the poetry to my heart and soul about the tourism. Really, thank you very much. Why? Because this is some sort of balsam on our anger, desperate, because we are angry and tired every end of the season. Not only because we need to work there, this is a pleasure, but because we are those days fighting with everything else. If you are successful, then local communities say there is too much tourism. If you ask the ministry or somebody, they are overloaded with 101 problems, but they are trying everybody. But still, we workers in tourism, we are much more than only tourist workers. But still, let's go to the positive sides, because today it was mentioned love and a lot of love, and let's go back to the love. When I will talk about young people, I need to stress up three situations. First, 2019, when we opened and did a really good revitalization, sustainable revitalization of Jasna Lake. 2019, I was really struggling for the staff, and I was calling my also good colleague, Jamie from England. He's running great beach bar and club in Greece. Do you have any staff? And he said, look, Dominik, I understand you. Your country is doing such a marvelous promotion of Slovenia. Who wants to work for a weekend in your country? First. Second, last year we were on holidays We even go for holidays in tourism, although they're telling us that we are non-stop on holidays. And when I talk with my friends, they tell me, you're not working, you're non-stop on holidays, come on. So one of our friends, we are 7 families, she's a psychologist. And she asked me, end of last summer holidays, like, Dominique, can I ask you something? I said, yes. What is your vision about to your sons being involved in the tourism? I said, I hope we created a lovely tourist portfolio, our family, in the last 30 years, so I hope that maybe they will continue this. She said, I'm not sure, because when we are talking through the joke, but you're always talking about problems and challenges and crises in your job, so from a side looks like job like a horrible nightmare. So and then I realized, maybe they're right. Although we have the family deal, and the Jezerchik family was my inspiration when we did the job, Martin especially. I'll tell you later, because when we make the last investment, we agreed at home, kids, they were 10 years old, they signed the contract over the buying also, and we agreed that they will work minimum 14 days every summer in our place from 10 till 18 years old. And they're doing. And I'm trying to make them a little bit more passion, and especially after last year's conversation, I'm doing even more passion. And the third challenge that we have it, because always you need to start with yourself. I started with me, with my family, and also with us Slovenians. We Slovenians, we love tourism. We love our country. There is a little thing that we need to maybe to upgrade. It's the appreciations to the job of the people who are serving them when they go to these beautiful places. Maybe to say, thank you very much for the good service, and not to treat the workers like the boxer back because you have some problems. And a little detail, I always, like in a joke, say to our visitors, for Slovenians, we should learn that Tringelt, it's not a city in Austria, but it's something that you do on top to say thank you very much for a good job. But when you come to the solution, when you talk about the young people, honestly, I deeply believe in the possibilities of young people. We need to know, like with generation, millennials, fathers, and parents, we need to understand that every children will be not the leader, maybe a president or something, but he can give something to make this world better. And children, they are born like a white paper. We parents, society, school system, we create them like they are. Generations are because of also technology. And why I believe them, we also run the travel agency for 27 years. We are based on young people because we are created for young people. And believe it or not, we even for the last year managing more than 2,000 beds every day in the summers in Slovenia, Croatia, and Greece. So like a huge hotel with so many properties, but we still have only 22 employees because they are run by young leaders that we created in our own academy. And when I came to Kranjska Gora, to this place, I thought that this will be the same story. But what I found out, there are no students. There are only high school pupils, and we stuck first year because everybody left after first or 2 days. And I was shocked. I said, what I'm doing wrong? And we did the analysis, and after first year, we created 3 programs. Young Hopes of Jasna, Young Talents of Jasna, and the Silver Stars. Why Silver Stars? Because first year, our project was saved by the ladies mostly who worked before in tourism, and they were retired, and they came by themselves to see, we have a problem, can we help? And I always say, the best ever help, and we're still keeping them there. But what is the young talents? We saw that we cannot, that we're doing something wrong with the kids between 15 and 18 years old, which they are there available. So we went to the school to ask Radovlica, Professor Ivanovic, what we're doing wrong. He said, Dominique, different time, different people, different kids, different values. Exactly what you were talking about. Except what we did, we transformed this to the practice. So he said, first, it's good that you do all certificated training to work with the kids and to be a mentor to the school kids. So we all did this. And I advise everybody, if you work with young people or if you have kids, do this, because then you understand how to work. Inside this, when we make all our staff certificated mentors, then we also, what we did great, because kids, they want to do something quickly, to see where they are growing, how they're growing, and when they're growing. So we create first the story, what are the skills, that you will get when you work in tourism. For example, exactly what we're talking about is, it's a human touch. You will start to talk with the people, not with the phone, and you will do this in the 4 languages. Second, you will do work like a team. So you need to work with the team, yes. The third one, you will get some activities to do and you will follow them. But we found one of the biggest challenge, parents. So we included a year later also in our slow 14 days program, we create parents. And now we have, every year we make 26 seats, 26 places we made, they can apply. And for the main meeting, we invite kids and parents. And we explain everything what will happen to the parents, and when parents say yes, they give kids the right to do it, and we move kids. They need to stay with us 14 days. We pay because we created a special accommodation for them. And believe me or not, after 14 days, even after 2 days, the kids who come like this there, they looks like they cannot do nothing. They grow up and they can do miracles. So for the final, together with Strip Tourism, we are preparing now for hopefully till the next spring that this project will be upgraded and we will be available for everybody who want to follow us, because we were last year awarded like the best practice in Slovenia in HR. And believe me, we do 26 people. If hundreds of you will do, maybe 10, we will have 2,000 people. So this is it. So there is a possibility, and we need to do it first step, not to ask government or the local mayor. We do it by ourselves first. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So you see, this is Slovenia, you know. Men wait for a long time to talk, and then they talk. Thank you very much, Mr. Cherniak. Do we have questions? No.
Unfortunately, we need to move on. Yeah. But we would like to again sincerely thank our panelists, Mr. Dan, Dr. Purk, Ms. Björklund. Thank you very much. You are free to take your leave from the stage.
So, our panel is now nearing its finale. To be on the safe side, lunch will be served, although with a little bit of delay. We have one more discussion in front of us, which will be focused on the aspect of digital transformation.
Exactly. And we are very pleased to welcome on stage Dr. Emilia Stojmenova-Duh, the Minister of Digital Transformation of the Republic of Slovenia, and Ms. Marie Odran, the Director General of HOTREC, the Association of Hotels, Restaurants, Pubs and Cafes in Europe.
So,
just maybe to mention,
yeah.
Dr. Stojmenova-Duh has another panel she needs to go to, so we will try to make this brief and make sure that you meet all your commitments.
Yeah, so we start with you, Dr. Stojmenova-Duh. Well, we have a Ministry of Digital Transformation now in Slovenia, which is quite unique. Well, you do a lot of things, but what have you already done to address, let's say, the tourism-specific, I wouldn't say problems, but challenges when it comes to digitalization?
Hello. First of all, thanks a lot to the organizers for inviting me to this panel. It's a pleasure. We are not that unique, because yesterday I was hosting the digital ministers of the Western Balkan regions, and there are digital ministers in other European countries.
But we are unique because we have a female minister. So,
Thank you. Yes, we are unique then. Digital transformation is very horizontal, and we cannot speak what we are doing in digital transformation in tourism or digital transformation in education only, in entrepreneurship only, but what we are doing in terms of infrastructure, which is useful for tourism as well, because we are living in a digital world. And if you want to be successful in the digital world, you need high-speed broadband. So this is something that our ministry is already doing. What we are trying to achieve is that by 2030, all our territory of Slovenia will be covered with both 5G and high-speed broadband.
But Slovenia is small, shouldn't be a problem.
But we Slovenians love to live everywhere, which makes a big problem for electronic communication. And it's very expensive to bring high-speed broadband everywhere, including on mountains, including on different valleys, and so on and so on. So the digital infrastructure is the first thing what we are doing as a ministry to help the tourism sector as well. Another thing are the digital skills and competences. I really love to hear in the previous panel about the storytelling. And many of this storytelling, if you don't use digital channels, is of course in your local area. But if you're using the digital technologies, then the storytelling goes global. And that's why you need digital skills and competences, because usually the big mistake is that digital skills and competencies are only programming. No, it's also creating digital media, which will help the tourism sector as well. So this is another thing what we are doing at our ministry. On one side, we are teaching young children and young people to acquire the digital skills and competences, but on the other side also people that are working in the sector to reskill and upskill, to know how to use digital skills and competences. Then additional thing are public services. So in Slovenia we are funding a lot of digital public services, but we believe that if we want to be successful in the digital transformation, the public sector should not live in their own world, but we should collaborate together with the private sector. So many of our both infrastructure, but also the services that we are developing for the public sector, we are offering to the private sector, including the tourism sector as well. So this is just a brief.
Okay.
Dr. Stoiminova-Duh, you mentioned the existing skills of the workforce, and then there's needs of employers, and there's a gap there. And many employers are turning towards the artificial intelligence, such a hot topic. To close this gap, do you think that this is the right path? Can artificial intelligence help us to close this gap?
It's a very good question, thank you. So first we need to understand that no technology, and we can speak here about artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and so on, will substitute people. There is no such a thing. If we see, usually we are speaking how artificial intelligence will make sure that some jobs will disappear. We must understand that artificial intelligence will make sure that some of the tasks of certain jobs will disappear. And what we need to do here is, of course, we hope that these tasks are the boring ones, the ones that we cannot find people, that can be easily automated. And here we can use technology, not only artificial intelligence, but other technology as well. And then to close these gaps. So we have a certain number of workers, and it's not only in the tourism sector, trust me, in my sector, in IT, the gap is huge. So there is really a lack of workers. We must really see what of the tasks can be really automated so that the people then that stay can work better, can be more efficient, can be more productive, but also, as you mentioned, it's a new generation. They can also take more from their life. So technology will help us, but we cannot only hope that the technology will solve all our problems.
Thank you. Ms. Otran, you bring together hotels, restaurants, bars, and cafes in 36 European countries. The data by World Travel and Tourism Council show that by 2033, we can expect a 2% increase in travel and tourism jobs, which means 7 million new jobs in Europe, 110 million globally, and over 19,000 in Slovenia. Quite possibly, at least a few of these jobs will be automated, partially or in full. Where do you see the biggest benefits of automation in the hospitality industry? And maybe what are the main risks?
Thank you very much. And indeed, OTREC represent the European Association for Hospitality. And I have to say how much it's important for me to be here today, because a lot that I've been hearing this morning really resonate to a similar conversation across Europe. So that's also some is very encouraging, makes that as OTREC we have a lot of work to do, and we can really help this exchange of best practice and sharing among similar concern, because the labor shortage, and we discuss it a lot, after COVID, we lost about 10 to 20% of the workforce in Europe. So it was mentioned, it was not something new, but certainly a massive impact of COVID. So when it comes to technology, adoption and transformation, this is certainly a key driver of changes in hospitality, but I think in many other sectors of the economy. I guess we haven't seen all the potential. I mean, this is something that has been there for the past 20 years. It's changing rapidly. And here we were talking about various generations. I'm not sure which one I belong to, but on technology, I think the pace is so fast that it's, I'm certainly not an expert. But I mean, what we've seen in Utrecht when we discuss, of course, for the sector, it has a lot of potential. COVID has probably accelerated the transformation in terms of health and safety, but consumer demand. So when we discuss with our members, it's really about how it can change and improve the operation in back office, but also front desk. So we see a lot of opportunities for digital transformation in terms of ease of doing business. And I fully agree with you. It's not about job disappearing. It's about maybe task changing and improving. We see also, I mean, we have always to be there to listen and respond to the demand from our guests. And there is, of course, a huge demand from the client, from the customer, from the guests in terms of technology. They are also users. So we need to be there as well. And that's the beauty of the hospitality sector. We talk about soft skills, and we can really use digitalization in terms of traveling, connecting with the outside world, and being there on platform. Quickly, in terms of the risk and needs, because it's not just risk, it's also needs. I think, of course, let's not forget, hospitality industry in Europe is about over 95% of very small to micro companies. So these are really SMEs and 1 to 10 employee. So this can be quite challenging for them in terms of getting the infrastructure and maybe vulnerable. We had the development of digital apps in terms of hotel room distribution or renting. I mean, of course, this was, it has been developing over the past 20 years. It's becoming huge, but we have to be careful in terms of the competition with the smaller hotelier, the dependence it creates also, and their ability to manage their business and their distribution, so that we have to be very careful when it comes to vulnerability in terms of data privacy. We manage a lot of data, hospitality. So cyber attacks, vulnerability, that's also something I want to mention. And in terms of, it's not really risk or opportunity, it's the needs. And I think we've been discussing a lot this morning about the skills. So you can always see it both sides, but we certainly need to adapt the curricula and really work with those tools. So our message in Utrecht is really to embrace the digital transformation, not to fear it. They are challenging. We work, for example, with the European Union to develop programs to support SMEs in digital transformation. So really to help them to really put in place those tools. But it's important to embrace it. I think, like many other sectors, it's just how the future is going, and really size the opportunities.
Okay. Do we have questions from the audience?
Do we? Any questions on digital transformation?
Everybody's digital already, so...
Online questions.
Yes, perhaps you can email me your question if you want.
We definitely have one more question for Dr. Stoimenova-Duh, since we still have her. The question would be, when we are talking about acquiring new skills, is this something that should be financed or co-financed by the government? If we talk, for example, about employees already being in the companies, like reskilling or educating them further, is this something that the government should be co-financing?
It's something that we should all invest in, because the only constant thing in life is change, and you mentioned that. So jobs are changing, things are changing, we need new skills. It's not only the digital skills, but other skills as well. And when it comes to the digital skills, the government, of course, should invest in that. It should invest in the reform of the school systems to make sure that these digital skills are included through the school programs, because this is the only way where everybody can get the same skills. Then the companies, of course, they should invest in their people. The best thing they can do is invest in their employees. But let's not forget that we should invest in ourselves as well. We should not wait for the government or our employer, but we should also do our job and invest ourselves and make sure that we are in time with the world and what is needed in the market.
Thank you. Any questions now? We have a lady here.
The lady is waiting from the first panel. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Monica Lapagna. I'm coming from School of Economics and Business Ljubljana, and I'm covering executive education at this school. I have to say many initiatives are going on already. We were together with ministry in one project supported by Google, and just our center delivered more than 700 hours of digital marketing trainings, and more than 1,600 participants from tourism sector from Slovenia joined them. So we already did really a lot. And right now, if I'm not wrong, your ministry just published one tender for digital skills for Slovenian citizens. So I think many initiatives are going on. We just have to have motivation to join them. And I would just add, our center is responsible for a project in tourism, smart specialization. Within this project, more than 400 participants joined more than 600 different programs from different management in tourism and hospitality. I see many participants from this room that were at this educational program too. So we have a lot of programs in Slovenia, very good one. We deliver top management programs in tourism and hospitality too. What is a challenge sometimes that we have more participants and more interest from middle management than from top management to join these programs.
Thank you. I was just reminded by this question, because we were talking before about female-male representation. We cannot skip the gender balance question when we talk about hospitality industry. Ms. Audrin, maybe you can speak a little bit about this. How do you see tourism companies, do they already understand how important gender balance, the empowerment, especially of women, or let's say, both genders is?
Look, I will speak for hospitality from my point of view. I mean, and I think Alessandra mentioned it at the beginning, over 50% of the workforce in the sector are women. So yes, it's really something important to the people working in the sector. I mean, what I like about hospitality, I've been there not that many years, is really the diversity of the jobs that exist in the sector, the flexibility, the inclusion. And of course, it's not perfect, but somebody mentioned about good storytelling. I think we have to be very proud. We have to promote. I mean, I've been in places where people in their early age, 12, 14, were told at school they won't do anything. I mean, really, that still exists. Young people who have said that, and now are really top leaders and people being beautiful career in the hospitality. Now, I'm not saying they are women. So we need to have more women when we hear those leaders speaking, but there is certainly, different initiatives in countries. But look, it's the private sector. It's also how we change the mindsets in our society, and I think it's something that has been really changing. Also with the schools empowering the young women and really having role models, and we have more and more. We need to promote them, but also work with government and public entity on the infrastructures. I think let's be honest. I mean, some improvements and also facilities need to be done to make sure that everyone have the ability and the time to develop its work the way he wants or she wants, and support from also his employer, but also from the states and the different care, because we know for women it's still very much important that the care infrastructure are efficient and give them the opportunity and the confidence to go to the workplace.
Okay, last question goes to our minister. First of all, you did it. I mean, you changed a little bit the landscape in Slovenia together with your colleagues when it comes to women engineers. So we're going into the right direction here. So why not change this also in tourism management? But another big thing is also data, the amount of data security. So what is your final word on that?
Yeah, because we cannot speak about digitalization if we don't have data. And we are speaking about artificial intelligence today, not because the technology is new, but because now we have the data and we have the computer power these days, so we can use that data. And this is something I forgot to mention earlier, what our ministry is offering. Our ministry is offering a lot of data. In Slovenia, we have open data portal, and I see some people here in the audience who know how to use data. So this is something that the tourism sector can really make a good use of that. Mm-hmm. But, of course, you should not forget about making sure that private data is protected. Yeah. Yes, very well protected, because otherwise you will have problems with your customers, you will lose your customers, and then the cybersecurity attacks. But this is again something that we are trying to address by providing different trainings, different programs. It was mentioned in the audience as well that we have one tender. No, we have 3 tenders. So please take a look at our tenders. There are many opportunities where you can skill your employees, where you can skill your future workers, not employees, employees and future employees as well.
Great.
Thank you. Distinguished panelists, thank you very much for your contribution. Let's give them another hand.
So, thank you very much, and let us, in the end, review the conclusions of today's debate. So I think that we can all agree on the importance of attracting talent and new generations by improving the perception of the sector, was Ms. Briante said. Then leveraging technological and digital solutions by adopting new ways of working based on technology. Then strengthening collaboration at all levels, collective action, meeting new demands will require efforts from all stakeholders like public, private, community, academia members. Rethinking tourism education, including parts of tourism curricula update, and of course, and this is really important, promoting lifelong learning, especially for old people. So,
yes.
So that would be.
And now we will transition into a more informal setting. We have a light lunch waiting just beyond those doors and windows. This is an opportunity to continue the conversation, talk more with our panelists, further the discussions, and forge new connections.
Yes, Mr. Černek said that there was a lot to talk about love this year at BSF. we talked about love more last year, but it's probably something we can do again in 2024, Ms. Briante. Well, the Slovenian Tourist Board, the Ministry of the Economy, Tourism and Sport, and Bled Strategic Forum extend our solidarity in the face of the devastating floods that have recently impacted Slovenia. As a result, the activities within the Bled Strategic Forum 2023 have been adapted. Also, our lunch. So we appreciate your understanding, but we guarantee you won't go home hungry.
And also, you can stand in solidarity with people affected by floods by donating for flood relief. You can find more information about the Bled Strategic Forum donation initiative by scanning the QR code now presented on our screens. Thank you all very much for being a part of today's discourse, and we look forward to sharing a meal and further discussions with all of you.
Thank you very much, Martina, for your kind collaboration, and to
Thank
all
you,
you,
Igor.
dober tek. Have a good run, or bon appetit.